All right, guys and ladies, I appreciate the opportunity to talk today. I'll try to be loud so everyone can hear me. My name is Doug DeSilvio. I'm with the George D. Allen Company, Alberto's crew. Today we're going to be talking about fall prevention because this next 2 weeks, this week and next week, OSHA is doing a national safety stand down. So the national safety stand down from last year reached about 1 million people.
Se llama Douglas, él va a dar una presentación acerca de la prevención contra caídas, prevención de accidentes, la caída, porque muchos los que se han muerto en eso, es más de 1 millón de personas.
The purpose of today is obviously stopping work. OSHA is trying to reach 20,000 job sites in these 2 weeks. So that's their goal for these next 2 weeks. And they're trying to reach 3 million people this year, not 1 million. So you're raising awareness and bringing people together to educate you on fall prevention.
Las próximas 2 semanas,
next 2 weeks, yeah.
Las próximas 2 semanas, la OSHA está tratando de recolectar 3 millones de personas que sepan de qué se trata esto del fall prevention.
If they obtain this goal of 3 million people, that means that would be 4 out of every 10 construction workers in the U.S., which is a pretty good goal. That's 40%.
Si ellos cumplen esa meta, de cada 10,
that would be 4. If we had 3 million people, they would reach 4 out of 10 construction workers.
Si llegan a la meta de los 3 millones, son 4 de cada 10 trabajadores en los Estados Unidos que ya van a saber.
Every year, the Department of Labor publishes how many fatalities there are. Every year.
Cada año.
Thank you. Every year, OSHA publishes how many fatalities.
La OSHA cada año es lo que está anunciando cuántas fatalidades hay de la construcción.
The most recent information they have on fatalities for general industry for everything was 4,405. That's the total number of fatalities.
Los totales de fallecimientos son 4,405 en un año, en 1 year.
In 1 year. All right.
En un año son 4,405 muertes. Fatales.
And what probably wouldn't surprise you is when you drive every day to work, and you go in the car and drive, you see accidents, right? You see accidents on the highway. That accounts for 22% of this number. All right, so about 800 to 900 deaths were on the highway on vehicles.
Eso incluye también en los carros manejando. El 20% de esas personas ya ocurren son los accidentes también en los freeways.
What will surprise you though is falls to lower levels. How many do you think that accounted for out of that 4,000? It's about 600 deaths in 2013.
En el 2013
falls to lower levels.
En el 2013 de esos niveles de todos esos que se han muerto son 600 en 2013.
Okay, so there is a trend. There's a little graph that they also publish. It shows a trend the last 3 years of fatalities in construction, just overall construction. Falls, struck by, electrocution, all those totaled 826 in 2014.
En el 2014, 826, pero eso incluye también electrocutados,
struck by, hazards, falls.
Caídas, electrocuciones, eso incluye todo eso también en los 4 millones.
Okay, and just so everybody knows, fall prevention, fall hazards is the most frequently cited OSHA citation on a job site.
Eso de prevención contra caídas es donde la OSHA da más como tickets, o sea, no, que da más ¿cómo se dice? Da multas, thank you. Es en eso del arnés, del Power Protection es lo que da más multas OSHA en que es la construcción.
Okay. The next most frequent fatality that you see in construction is struck by, like overhead falling objects. Right? Someone drops something, someone gets struck by an object. That was about 80 compared to what we said about 280 for just fall hazards. So that is the most frequently cited OSHA citation, and it's the most fatalities that you see in the construction industry. Same thing we said. Yeah. Okay. So there are some training requirements. All right. Every employer needs to make sure that each employee that may be subject to a fall hazard has been properly trained. So there's training requirements from the employer.
Hay un requerimiento que el patrón en la compañía tiene que darle entrenamiento antes de usar el arnés. Ese es un requerimiento que tiene que estar entrenado para poder usar cualquier sitio.
Okay, there's also, and this is the law, this is in the OSHA regulations, procedures for maintaining and inspection your fall protection systems, like your harness and your lanyard. So there's also a regulation that says that you have to inspect your harness and you have to inspect your lanyard prior to use.
También hay una regulación de cómo saber que es un requisito de inspeccionar y mantener en lugar seguro los arneses.
Okay, each employee, after they're trained on fall protection by their employer, needs to have some type of training certificate. That's the last part of the OSHA regulations, okay, as far as the training goes.
Y cada empleado que haga eso le dan un sticker donde está que ya tiene el entrenamiento de pasar el
Now this is a full body harness. I see a lot of people wearing them, all right? What you don't see, actually what you do see, you see some of these guys on a job site, they're wearing body belts. Right? Body belts for fall arrest, fall protection, was outlawed in 1998 by OSHA. Okay, so they went to the full body harness. So if you ever see someone on the job site that's wearing a body belt for fall protection, that's not the correct protection to be used.
Sí, es lo que ese es el apropiado que hay que usar, porque muchos usan, le dicen que como bajo, que nomás le amarran de un pie o de la cintura, y eso para eso es para no usar un lazo atado uno de un pie nomás o de aquí amarrando así, no, porque así se han muerto muchos. Ahí tiene una foto que está amarrándose de aquí de una pierna.
It's hard to see these pictures, but what it is, this was a couple years ago on a job site. There was an employee doing work on a sloped metal roof. The other employee was holding the rope, and the guy that was doing the work had the rope tied around his thigh. Okay? Obviously that's not proper fall protection, but you might not blame the employee, you might blame the employer who didn't properly train these guys. They were trying to do the right thing and protect themselves, but they probably didn't give the proper training.
Y ese estaba trabajando en un roof de metal que estaba ladeado y estaba amarrado de la pierna con un lazo y otro lo estaba deteniendo y eso no está bien.
Okay, so it says again, just to reiterate, that your harness and your lanyards, your fall protection equipment needs to be inspected prior to use before putting it on.
Los arneses tienen que ser inspeccionados antes de que se los pongan, antes de cada día. Si vamos al lunch y lo dejas, también le sale una revisadita.
And that's the reason why. Everyone see that picture? That's a 6-foot shock absorbing lanyard. that a while back one of our employees took lunch, he left his harness and his lanyard sitting on the rooftop, and there were welders overhead that were doing work, and some of the slag hit the lanyard and burned a hole right through the cord. All right, our employee came back, didn't do his inspection, went back to work. When we went out to the job site to do our inspection, we saw that his lanyard was burned all the way through to the cord. So that's why it's important to do an inspection every time you put your harness and lanyard back on, because you never know.
Esto pasó con un empleado de nosotros de la compañía que se fue al lonche y dejó su arnés. Ahí andaban los soldadores y dejaron caer las chispas y él cuando regresó del trabajo no lo revisó y así se lo puso. Y ellos cuando hicieron la inspección hallaron eso, que estaba quemado por las chispas de los soldadores.
There is a proper way to do your inspection. Yo-yos, right? Yo-yos need to be inspected too. Pull it all the way out, make sure there's no cuts or frays in the webbing. Right? We've seen that before. And when the harness is actually worn, we're going to show a proper way of putting on and inspecting your harness here in just a little bit.
Eso es lo mismo también las rondanas estas, los yoyos esos que son también para que sale una cuerda y se atranca, también es igual, hay que inspeccionar. Ahorita va a decir cómo usar esta cosa, el arnés.
Okay, so there's a lot of different equipment manufacturers. Some type might be the grommet, where you have the leg straps are different than these. These are quick connects, right? So it might be a little bit different depending on what type of manufacturer's harness you're going to be wearing, but you need to inspect it before you put it on.
Hay muchos tipos de arneses, muchas clases, como este es uno y el que trae él es otro y hay varios tipos, pero lo importante es no importa el tipo que sea, hay que revisarlo antes de ponerlo.
I think everybody knows, but this is the back D-ring where you connect to. Right, first thing you do is shake it to make sure everything's falling into place. When you do your inspection, hold it by the D-ring so you can see and work your way down from the back plate.
Y este es el ring que va atrás en la espalda y para revisarlo, para revisar el arnés, tiene uno que ponerlo así y ver, porque no puede uno revisarlo así no va a revisar nada porque está todo envuelto. Necesitan agarrarlo del ring, este es el que va en la parte de la espalda, así. Ya así ven las cuerdas que están bien, que no están rompidas y que está bueno.
Okay. See this stitching, this white stitching? These are fall indicators. So if this harness was ever in a fall situation, if you ever see that stitching frayed or deployed, that means that this harness needs to be replaced, taken out of service.
Cuando estas puntadas blancas que se ven aquí, este es como para una caída que soporte como casi tipo amortiguador, o que amortigua el golpe. Y cuando ya ha sido caído, esto se abre, las puntadas, y es que ya no sirve, ya ha estado en una caída y ya hay que reemplazarlo.
Okay. You physically want to touch all the webbing on your harness. All right, make sure it's not brittle, make sure there's no frayed stitching on it, make sure there's no burn marks or excessive wear and tear. Sometimes even the UV from the sun can degrade this material and make it very brittle. All right, so that's what you're looking for. If there's a problem, then you'll want to report that to your supervisor.
Nomás hay que chequearlo, ir agarrando lo que no tenga orillas ni puntadas, salidas, hilos más que nada que no esté roto, quemado. Y luego también si lo deja uno mucho en el sol lo afecta. No se debe dejar en el sol ni en el agua, tiene que en la lluvia, no aventarlo allá atrás de las rocas, para mantenerlo donde no se moje, donde no esté expuesto a los rayos solares.
After you look at all the stitching, check your buckles, all right, the connection points. Make sure they're not damaged, make sure they're not cracked, all right, make sure that they function. I'll check each one of those. Chest strap. Again, it's just a visual inspection. No cracks, no rust, no sharp marks. All right, on the inside of this too, there shouldn't be any sharp burrs or cracks in the main D-ring either.
Después de que le chequen que ya no tiene nada, que está bien de las puntadas, hay que chequear las conexiones, los rines que no estén chuecos, que no estén oxidados. Y que ensamblen bien donde se pone, como que las puntas que entre bien, que no se saque solo. Y aquí este es muy importante que no tenga como que no esté filoso, porque algún pico que haga que no esté filoso ahí que no tenga.
After you identify there's no excessive wear and tear or damaged parts on your harness, last thing you want to do is check to make sure that your labels, your tags, right? Some of them have a nice little Velcro cover to keep them clean from any materials that you might be using. If they don't have them, number one, make sure they're there. If they're not there, you can't use the harness. Number two, the serial numbers, the model numbers, everything that's on the tag needs to be legible. So we came and did an inspection and saw that the tags were not legible and they couldn't read what it was. Again, take it out of service and get it.
Lo último que es, traen todos los arneses una etiqueta aquí, que deben de traerlas, si no la traen no sirve, no se puede usar, es como si tuviera una cortada también, ya no se puede usar. Aquí trae el número de serie, trae lo que puede, lo que resiste. Si hay uno muy gordote que pesa 500 y aquí dice que nomás 240, ya no puede usarlo. Exacto.
Depending on what type of work you might be doing, you might have a rigid lanyard, right, for more positioning or fall restraint. Or you might have to use a shock absorbing lanyard, or a yo-yo, or a double pelican hook that you've seen before for scaffolding. All right, depends what type of lanyard you're going to use. The inspection's the same. You're going to check every square inch of the webbing, and then you're going to check the components, the snap hooks, to make sure that there's no defects or all the operating parts are working the way that they should. So for a typical lanyard like this, make sure that the lock gate doesn't open by itself. All right, that's another thing that OSHA looks for. All right, so when you do your inspections, make sure that they freely open. They don't stay in the open position when you do open them. Make sure there's no rust. Make sure there's no cracks. Again, make sure all the stitching is in place. It's not brittle. So this 3-foot restraint would be good.
Hay varios tipos de líneas, depende del trabajo que andan haciendo y el que se ocupe. Nomás fíjale bien que esto no esté corrosivo, que no tenga óxido, mojo, y que abra así como debe, que no se quede abierto. Si queda abierto no sirve, que esté blandito, que circule bien. Esta es la de 3 strips. Esta es de 3 pies. Porque andas trabajando, esta se usa mucho en los strips. Depende del trabajo donde andas haciendo, hay que usar la línea adecuada y la inspección es lo mismo en todo. Para chequear lo mismo, que esté bien, que no tenga cortadas aquí en la orilla, que las cortadas no estén desbaratando.
Okay. Shock absorbing. Anybody tell me what side goes to the employee? This one? Sure? Big finish. What side connects to the employee?
¿Alguien puede decirle cuál lado es el que va en el ring de la mesa, en la espalda?
How many people say this one? Raise your hand. How many people say this one? This one. Why? Anybody? Why does this go to the employee? Right?
¿Por qué? ¿Quién dijo? ¿Por qué este lado va a la espalda? ¿Quién sabe por qué?
You're in a fall situation, you fall. You're not trying to protect the anchor point, right? You're trying to protect the employee from all that force that's exerted on your body. So exactly, right? That shock absorbing needs to be connected to the employee. A lot of times when we go out to do inspections, we see this connected to an anchor point or the boom lift or whatever other anchor point you're connecting to. Yeah, this always goes to the employee's back, and this goes to your anchor point.
Estos traen este es como, si lo miran, este trae esto que está así como a la hora de una caída, eso se abre y amortigua el golpe, por eso va así lo ven, por eso va a la espalda para proteger al mono. Es que no va en el punto de anclaje porque pues, no va a proteger a la persona, va a proteger donde se está amarrando. Se va a sentir el golpe más duro cuando llega a caer. Para eso es esto. Esto ya cuando se cae, esto amortigua y ya se retira. Es como una bolsa de aire en un carro, ya tronando ya.
Last thing, we're just going to demonstrate how to put a harness on. Right. One thing to note is if you have cell phones in your pocket or a knife, right, in your pocket, you might want to take that out and put it on your belt after you put your harness on. If you do fall and you got a knife or a sharp object or a phone, it might hurt you later. So take things out of your pocket and you're just going to put it on just like a jacket. That's step number one.
Lo primero que debes de hacer, que no hay que no traer nada en las bolsas, navajas, celular, todo lo que estorbe para las líneas aquí, eso lo debe de quitarse uno del pantalón.
Okay. Step number one is to put your leg straps on first. So these are the quick connects. You might have the grommet style, right? Just depends on what manufacturer you're using.
El primer paso es después de que se lo pone así, darle las piernas, que no quede apretado, con tener movimiento.
Okay. Proper way, what you're checking for tightness, it shouldn't be down by your knees, it shouldn't be draping. You'll pull them up, you'll be able to get your hand underneath it. That's how tight they should be. If they're down by your knees, or if they're too loose, you might have seen pictures what can happen. You know, it cuts off the circulation in your legs. It really damages you in a fall. Right, it's not pleasant. So make sure that they're tight enough and not draping down around your knees.
Ese tiene su nivel de lo apretado que debe de estar, que no ande muy flojote porque no lo traiga uno acá en la rodilla para poder caminar y la medida es así como dijo él, que esto apretado, una mano que le quepa aquí y así es, que no esté muy apretado ni muy flojo. Que si está muy flojo, pues a la hora de una apretón, en vez de ayudar va a dañar más.
And then the last thing you do is connect the chest strap. You don't want it up too high. Again, what happens if you get in a fall situation, this could be up around your neck and it could hurt you, so you want this right across your chest. Right in the middle of your chest. And it should be pinched enough where it's not too loose, where if you do fall, the straps can come off my shoulders, because then it's kind of worthless. It's like wearing a body belt. Right? So you want it tight enough where it's pinching in, and that's the proper way to put on a harness.
Lo último es el enganche que va en el pecho, que no esté flojo, que no esté muy arriba, que no esté flojo para que no se salga. Si está muy arriba a la hora de una caída se va a cortar.
And then just maintenance, just making sure at the end of the day it doesn't sit in the back of the trucks. You put it in some area that's dry. It keeps getting wet and drying out, wet and drying out. That's when you start having to replace these a lot more, because that sun and that drying out just makes it a lot more brittle on all this nylon fabric, all this material. So just take care of it, because this is life-saving equipment.
Lo último es hay que mantenerlo en un lugar seco, que no se moje, porque si se moja y se seca, y se moja y se seca, todo eso lo degrada, lo hace, no está bueno.
Anybody has any questions, I can answer them afterwards. But Mitchell, I appreciate the opportunity to be able to give this safety talk, and everybody have a good day. Thank you.
¿Dónde va el yoyo? ¿Dónde va el yoyo? Acá, allá.
How did you put it on the gun?
Porque yo no unos que traen un yoyo colgado.
How do you put the yo-yo on?
I see somebody use that when I see somebody use that that's fine. Or you need to put the neck.
Yo-yo can be connected to the back. I've seen that before. I'm sorry, to the anchor point. To the anchor point.
Yeah, I see how many persons use that.
Right. It should not be connected to your back. Right. I know there's a lot of different lanyard types.
The little ones.
Right.
Right. Él tiene que poner con ancla.
En los
Right,
yoyos,
so just to clear that up, yes. So if you're using a yo-yo, no matter what size, the actual yo-yo with the carabiner that connects needs to be connected to an anchor point, right? You don't connect the yo-yo, that big heavy yo-yo, to your back. Connect it to an anchor point. Then the other snap hook would connect to the harness so that you can move around.
y los yoyos traen, esos son los yoyos que se usan para recorrer y uno caminar así de aquí a allí, pero la pelota donde sale el cable, está la pelota y esa va al anclaje donde te quieres detener y ya para que andes caminando con la pura cuerda. No, nunca va el yoyo acá y va a tocar, sí va a andar uno caminando con el yoyo, pero no, así no.